Hello, we're Cliff and Andrea Riley, and we're the marriage service technicians. And today we just want to talk about a little bit about us and what we do and why we do it and why we are passionate about what we do. And we also want to try to be as transparent as possible.
Right.
Because what we do, it comes from our heart, really.
It
Flows from our heart. And we really care about people, we care about marriages and families. So here we are.
So the reason why we're doing this video is we remember back 30 years ago when we first were married, when we were going through struggles and troubles and didn't know where to turn to really get help. If someone were to recommend us to someone, we would have felt like we wanted to kind of know the people, know something about them, get a feel for what to expect before we invested our time and energy and finances into getting some kind of counseling.
And trust.
Absolutely. So we didn't have counseling. We didn't have money. We didn't even have a referral. We didn't have any resources at the time. So that will lead us to why we do what we do. But anyway, so we got married in 1991. So we just recently celebrated 30 years of marriage. We were a blended family. Cliff had 2 children when we got married, and then we have 2 children together. So we have 4 children. We have 9 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. So the first 6 months, things were smooth sailing. We were going along pretty good. It wasn't perfect, but we were still riding pretty high off the honeymoon. And then around 6 months or so, that's when things took a dramatic turn. And from there, from about the 6, 7, 8 month period until 4 years, it was a mess, a hot mess. So we really didn't have resources back then. We didn't have any couples around us that we thought had a good marriage. Our parents all had been divorced and remarried, and some of them divorced again. And so it really wasn't a lot of places we could go. And when I went to talk to different people about marriage, I would go and say, well, this is what's going on, ABC. And then they would say, that's all you're dealing with? How about this? They would come back and give me DEF, and it would be worse.
Right.
So I kind of got to the point, I'm like, well, where to go? And again, we didn't have the finances or the resources to be able to go and pay for counseling.
Also, I'd like to point out too, nobody had knowledge about blended families as well. Back then.
True. People didn't even talk about blended families.
It was like a taboo, when it came to, blended families, or what they called back then step families.
Yeah. So we went to 4 sources of premarital counseling. Now that we did do before we got married. We went to 2 couples and we went to 2 individuals. And out of those 6 people, not one of them mentioned a word about blended families, as if they didn't think children would have any impact on the marriage. So back then we were kind of clueless, and I think the people meant well, but they were clueless as well. So that was a big part of our issues, that there's a lot of things we had known, we could have done something differently, but we didn't. So we really know what it's like to struggle. We know what it's like not to be sure if we're going to make it. We know what it's like. I know what it's like to have all kinds of resentment and bitterness and just frustration, anger. We know what it's like to argue and over the same arguments. We know what it's like to be in pain in terms of marriage.
Yeah, and I know what it's like to be shame, walking in shame, and pride, and a lot of self-inflicted issues and dynamics that I was going through as a man and as a husband.
Right. Well, of course, we know all this now, but we didn't know it then. We just knew we were frustrated. So things took a dramatic turn around our 4th wedding anniversary. That's a long story. If you decide to come to us, I'm sure we'll refer to it, because that was a big, not incident, but that was just a big event in our lives.
Yeah, I would say a turning point.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100% a turning point. So, but as things began turning in our marriage, people started seeing a difference and a change. And so slowly but surely people started coming to us and asking us questions. And we're like, wait a minute, we hardly know anything. We just barely turned the corner and you're asking us for directions. And so that's kind of where it got started. We didn't know at that time that this is what we were really called to do together. But anyway, so as time went on, things improved and we grew and we learned things and we went to all types of everything we could find to try to help our marriage. So we got to the point where at least we knew we weren't going to get divorced. We decided, okay, we can stay married.
Yes.
And then at a certain point, we were actually asked to be over a marriage ministry of a large church. So when we did that, that's when we really found out how much people were hurting and how many people didn't really know where to turn or didn't feel like they could talk to people or didn't have resources, whatever it was. We found out how many dealing with the marriage ministry. So we were doing events every month. We were doing some type of event or sponsoring a trip, or there was something going on every single month. And people really started coming to us then. So by this point, we kind of had a little something to offer. But it got to the point so many people were coming to us, and this was not like our full-time job. So we felt like we didn't have enough time to help everybody. So we decided, well, how about this? How about if we take everything that we know, everything we've learned, and let's just put it all together into one workshop. And then we can just take that and we can invite everybody who's coming to us for help. Invite them in and just give everything we know all at one time. So that was our brilliant plan. And so that's when our first workshop began. And that's when we coined the name the Marriage Service Technicians as a result of that workshop and putting that material together. And that came out of us kind of marketing things and explaining things with relationships and drawing parallels to repairing or maintaining or upkeeping automobiles. And that's where we kind of got that from. And so the workshop was packed wall to wall. It was in our home. We cleared everything out and we had the people packed in like sardines. During the age of COVID, we could never gotten away with that now.
Right.
But that's what we did back then. And it was very successful. And so by the time we were done, we realized, okay, we could see ourselves doing this on a larger scale. So that summer, we went to the University of Central Florida to their summer Family Institute. And that was like a 3-week, oh my gosh, intensive program that we went there. And that's when we started getting trained and getting various certifications and licenses and all that. So, so we basically, even in the midst of all the training that we've done then and since then, we realized a lot of it really confirmed a lot of what we had already figured out on our own. It just confirmed that why it was working more so than like, oh, we didn't know this. It's like, oh, that's why this. Oh, so it kind of made the pieces fall into place and kind of build our confidence. But just the pain that we went through, the struggle, not knowing where to go, not knowing where to turn, when we were able to take all of that we learned through that time, along with our training, and being able to share it with other people and seeing their lives change and seeing their marriages turn around, that's what began to bring us a lot of joy.
Yes.
It brought us contentment, it brought us satisfaction, it was like, okay, so you didn't just suffer all that you suffered and go through all that you went through just for naught, but at least your pain is able to help somebody else. And so All right, I'm
Yeah.
going to stop and let you.
Yeah, and I agree. And what really also helped us and helped other couples is that through our pain, we share that. Or we are, at least we try to be as authentic as possible, transparent, vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Especially like when I start getting past a lot of the shame and guilt issue, we really start to take off that. But sharing our pain, and then coupled with the information and the training that we have, learning how to use the principles and the tools at that time that was provided to us, and also trusting God, really helped us move along, and that's when we really discovered how passionate we was about it. You know, my wife, she's a people person, and I'm a people person, and one thing that we hate the most is seeing people suffering, or seeing marriages and families being unfulfilled and striving and
falling apart.
And not only does it really upset us, but it breaks our heart, really. It really breaks our heart. And my wife and I, Andrea, we had a little talk about that.
Yeah, that he always calls me his wife.
Yeah, but that's me just confirming.
Name.
That's just confirming our relationship. Not my boo, not my girlfriend, but my wife. But yeah, but she's all that too. Really, we just love God's people. We love marriages, and we just want the best for you, the best for other people, and we just want everybody to have what God really has for them. And so any part that we can play, anything that we can do for marriages and families, we'll do it. And one thing that my wife and I, we really try to be humble, and we try to walk it out before people. We just don't teach this biblical principles and other book knowledge information, but we live those things out ourselves. We not only just tell people, but we do it ourselves. We practice it ourselves. And that really, really helped us to get to like 30 years where we are right now.
And it helps people, because it's one thing if we open up a book and read it and say, oh, okay, here's your answer. There you go, do it. But we haven't really done it, because sometimes you get in the middle of the process and you start having struggles and things that maybe the book doesn't explain.
Right.
But when you've walked it out, when you've actually done what you practice, what you preach, then you know, okay, I know how you feel, because I got there and I felt the same way. But this is what I did, and this is what I pressed past it. I did this, I did that. So it makes all difference in the world. And someone just reading it, reciting it, versus someone who's actually walked it as well.
Yes. And not only we walk it out ourselves, but my wife and I, we are willing to walk along with you as you go through the process of healing, restoring your marriage, or just getting more information, more knowledge, and more wisdom. We'll walk it out with you.
Okay. I guess that's all you need for now. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, and P.S. we forgot to mention that we're licensed relationship instructors, certified marriage specialists, and that's biblical counseling, certified life coaches, licensed ministers, certified trauma healing facilitators, and generational trauma healing facilitators, as well as being trained in the Strengthening Families program, which is a parenting and life skill program.
Yes.
All right.